what would be some advice for those business owners who are considering right now,
Yeah.
investing in a website or doing this or that,
Don't do it. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
A lot of money in a custom site. Shopify, in my opinion, not the way to go.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Tire Talk podcast. My name is Fernando Herrera, and in this conversation, I've had the honor of sitting down with someone who's built one of the fastest growing online tire companies in America, Jared Kugel, founder and CEO of Tire Agent. I've watched their journey closely from the early days, and today they sell over $150 million worth of tires every year. Now, if you're building an online tire business, selling to those who are, or just curious about how the modern tire economy works behind the scenes, this is a conversation you'll want to hear. Now, before we begin, if you find value in these discussions, please take a moment to tap that like button. It helps more than you can imagine. And if you know a friend, a cousin, or a family member running a shop, share this episode with them. It might just change the way they think about growing their business. This episode is also brought to you by TireBase, a cloud-based shop management system designed to streamline control of inventory and automate inventory feeds to major platforms like Tire Agent. You simply pick the type of inventory you want to send, the price and the frequency, and TireBase takes care of the rest. TireBase is offering 2 months for free to the Tire Talk viewers, so the link will be in the description below. Now, without further delay, I present to you guys the founder and CEO of Tire Agent, Jared Kugel.
It is very surreal when people say that out loud.
No, man, but
Very, very surreal.
well, thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me today.
My pleasure.
It's a beautiful office. We're here in New York, actually. So I flew in last night, and I'm very happy and thankful for you having us, here today.
My pleasure. It's Hoboken, New Jersey.
Okay. That is true, but for an outsider, it's honestly like I could see New York here. So it's like Southern California, Los Angeles is like there's
Well, we do have the beautiful view of the World Trade.
Yes.
And also of Empire State Building in the back.
Yep. Okay. No, well, for those that, I know I've known you for some years now,
Yep.
but for those that don't know you, I like to start my podcasts with a little introduction about yourself.
Sure.
Who is Jared, and how did you start here in the industry?
Yeah, so I started, I would say, at a really, really young age because my family was in the industry. So my parents had retail stores and a wholesale tire company. And then they kind of grew that. And then eventually they got rid of the tire stores, kept the wholesale company. And my cousins were in the industry. My friends growing up were in the industry. And so I ended up probably starting full time when I was maybe like 18, 19 years old, maybe 17. I'm 38 now, so the times kind of like went by really quick.
Yeah.
But I started out doing sales, B2B sales, but my dad didn't want me in the industry. So he made me work on commission only.
Why? Why did he want you in the
He
industry?
wanted me to be a stockbroker growing up. Yeah, which is like so different, obviously. But I was always, I gravitated towards tires, and I went from sales, then I did warranties, then I did more like high volume sales to like other wholesalers and big scale retailers. And then I worked with manufacturers, did some buying. So it was kind of like an evolution over time. And then I would say by the time I got to like 31, so I was like, at this point, I didn't feel like that was really the path I wanted to go on. So I think it prepared me really well, which was great because the work ethic of my parents was phenomenal. My dad, I remember he made me come into work after having like appendix surgery, made me come in like the next day. And I could barely move, and but it's okay. It sounds crazy, but that work ethic really drove me, And then at 31, that's when kind of like Tire Agent started to kick off the ground, and kind of used my knowledge and my relationships to kind of fast forward into the next chapter.
Okay, so you had the background. You kind of grew up in the industry.
Yep.
What made you think at some point that Tire Agent was a concept? Like, when was the first thought of Tire Agent?
Yeah, I think, well, what happened was when I was doing sales, I spent a lot of time at retail shops, a ton of time. And I got to see all the challenges they were facing, but all the challenges the consumer was facing going into the shops. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of really well-run businesses, but a lot of them are not. And it's really an unfair advantage because usually it's a small shop, one counter guy, a few tire mounters, right? And then out of nowhere, you'll get like a rush of customers into the store, right? So you were in retail, you know how it is, right? And so now this counter person, who's one person trying to help a whole bunch of people, is tasked with being a tire advisor, right? A payment plan expert, because they offer credit cards and, Snap and a bunch of other options. And then they're also sometimes supposed to be a warranty adjuster at the same time, right? When people come in with post-sale problems. And then they're also supposed to be a manager. And so you're asking that counter person to have a job of like 5 people. But usually what happens is they're overwhelmed. They can't possibly take their time and explain everything to everyone. So they're giving them maybe like 1 or 2 options, 3 at most, rushing through it. And then the customer has to make a decision because now they feel kind of pressured because the car's already there.
Right.
Or maybe in some cases they've already done mechanical work, so the car's on the lift. And then sometimes that customer will have buyer's remorse. And then it's like, what do you do?
Yeah.
And I thought about it over time, and I was like, there's got to be a better way. I didn't know I was going to be into online retail. I always had the concept of tire agent, but what you see today is not how it started. It originally started as a search engine for tires. And then it pivoted into mobile tire installation. Then for mobile tire installation, we tried to do SaaS by doing selling road hazard to the tire retail stores. And then from there,
some of these concepts are very familiar with even newer companies that are coming out.
Exactly. So, but what I learned was you have to fail fast. So once I started failing fast, eventually I found something. But the way it actually started was I knew I didn't want to be at my family's business forever. I love the industry, so I knew I wanted to stay in the industry because I love the people, I love the science behind the tires, because it is a science and it's an art. Yeah. So I went on LinkedIn one day, pitched an idea to a complete stranger, and I basically wrote to him, you don't know me, but I saw you speak on a panel 5 years ago, and I have an idea for a tire business. And he goes, send me a deck. He wrote me back. And I didn't know what a deck was. I thought it was something that goes in the back of a house. Yeah, right? I had no idea.
Flooring deck or whatever. Yeah.
So I go online and I go, can someone make me a deck for $100? I just typed it into like one of these websites. Yeah. Someone did it. Now looking back on it, that presentation was garbage. But I then gave it to this group. It turned out to be a venture capital firm, which I didn't know that at the time. Yeah. Because I didn't do any research on them. I just wrote it out to a stranger. Wow. And then the next day they wrote me back and they said, can you talk on the phone? And I want to say by like day number 7, they call me and they go, we'd like to make you an offer. And then of course, as they're making me the offer, I can't hear because I'm walking around New York City and I hear trucks honking. Yeah. So I had them repeat it like 3 times. But the offer was $100,000 for like a certain percentage of the business. The next day I went to my parents and I said, I quit. I said, I'm giving you my notice. And I left. And the reason why I did it is because I didn't know what the odds were of a complete stranger offering me $100,000 to start my own business again, right? It just seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And for me, I've always believed when you have opportunities, you got to grab them. I think in this life, people get opportunities thrown at them all the time, but unfortunately, people don't always take the risk. Yep. And it was one of those things where I just jumped in it. Now I can tell you at 38, I don't know if I would do that now, right? Because I'm in a different stage of my life. Yeah. But I also didn't know the grind I was in for. Because once I took that offer, like it got real. Because you had to sign an agreement and you had to enter this program, and everyone in the program was from either like a top-notch school or they came from a really impressive job. And I'm not disparaging the work I did, but these people were intelligence-wise at that time. For me, I felt like worlds above what I even knew. And then being surrounded by smarter people, I felt like elevated my game and made me want to be smarter. And I was basically a student of the craft constantly. So I know it's a long answer, but that was kind of the journey I went on. And I always call myself a tire guy. VCs didn't really want to talk to me because while you're in this program, you have to pitch your business to other venture capital firms. And nobody really took me seriously. But then what happened was you enter this program, and at the end of the program, you then go on stage in front of almost 1,000 people. And you have to pitch your business. You hope to get investment. And the day or maybe a couple days right before demo day, I get an agreement and a contract from Allstate, which was like life-changing, that a big company had faith in what I was about to do. Yeah. And the contract was to help me take their tire road hazard product to market on the sale of a tire, like to sell the road hazard, like we would with like some of those other companies out there that you see at tire stores. Right. So that was kind of really interesting. It kind of told me that like, okay, someone believes in me. Yeah. And it's been a great relationship with them ever since. If you go on Tire Agent, you see it being sold there, right? But it was very hard because after demo day, I had not really taken a salary during this time, right? Keep in mind, this is like many months later from when I took the check. Well, at this time, I basically had ran out of money. Personally, ran out of money. Yeah. And there was like a gap period where basically I ran out of money. I had no money for my bills. So I got basically a 30-day notice, or I think it was a 30 or 45-day notice from the bank. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was basically saying if I don't come with the money in 30 days, they're going to foreclose on my house. I had a condo in Manhattan. And I couldn't afford lunch or food or anything, so I had to live off of crackers and jelly for like some time. And I was just telling some of my employees yesterday when I was at lunch, you don't really appreciate what you have until you think back on the times how bad it could get. And I remember I had to scrounge for change to afford my next meal at a certain point. I sold my possessions to kind of get food just to survive and back pay my mortgage. Well, anyway, finally someone had faith in me that saw me at demo day. They put together a group, and I ended up raising $750,000. Nice. Finally, I was able to take like an actual paycheck and catch up on my bills. Yeah, right? For sure. Finally. So that kind of started. Now, the business I pitched to them was a mobile tire installer. And we can go into a whole nother question on why that kind of like didn't pan out, but that started the journey of brainstorming where I can get to. And so I always kind of had the idea way before I did this type of business on an idea similar to Tire Agent, but now it's evolved way past what I ever imagined. So I know it's a really long-winded answer, but hopefully I kind of got there.
It definitely gives me some more follow-up questions here. So I have two questions. We'll start with that. The Allstate deal sounds pretty interesting. So you mentioned before you were trying to build a SaaS product that you could sell road hazard. Did that have something to do with the pitch that you offer them?
Yeah, so originally what we were trying to do is we wanted to sell the road hazard product to tire stores for them to sell to consumers.
Okay.
But it kind of goes back to what we said was one of the challenges at a tire store, which is one counter person overwhelmed, has to pick and choose what they want to prioritize to the customer. By the way, I don't blame him. It's an unfair scenario for a counter guy when it's only one person, right? When there are multiple, it's different. But when it's one person, it's very hard. So we signed a lot of mom and pop shops, but it was just too hard to get them to adopt the product to then want to sell it to customers. So we ended up investing, I forgot how much money it was, but it was a substantial amount and didn't work out. But Allstate never lost their patience with me. Like, they stuck with me until we finally found something that worked. The mobile tire business, we kind of tried to incorporate that as well with the Allstate, but still didn't really pan out. And I can go into why I think mobile has its advantages and its cons. But mobile did not work for us. I mean, I literally went in a truck and tried to do the route with the person that had the truck, and I scouted it out and I studied it, and it just was very difficult for me. I mean, kudos for people that make it work. I think it's incredible, and I think it's a great service. But when you're in venture, you have to scale quick. But for me, I had to balance scaling quick with also being profitable, with also being cash flow positive, because I come from an old school thinking, similar to you, that you want to still have good fundamentals.
Yeah.
You don't want to just build a business and have to depend on fundraising to survive. And I won't do that. Like, we built a very sound business, and there's a lot of reasons why we're successful, but I can tell you that one big reason why we're successful is the people that believed in us. Because we would not be here if it wasn't for Allstate and it wasn't for a lot of other companies that stuck with us from day one.
Now, with the mobile, I know you guys still offer mobile, and there's a partnership you guys have established. I don't know if with more companies, but one of them is Bingo Mobile, right?
Yes.
How did that come to fruit when you said, hey, mobile just didn't work out for us, I got to find another third party that can help us with this? Or was it just luck?
Well, I think as I've built Tire Agent, I've kind of learned that selling tires is a very different business than installing tires. I know you have tire shops that are out there that sell tires, obviously, but you're never going to be a master of everything, right? Because tire shops sell tires because of a lot of different reasons, but one of them is convenience, right? It's local. You could just hop in there. You can get a price. You can install the tires. Maybe you have a relationship with the guy and you get tire done. But selling tires is an art because it goes from education to post-care to selling other products along the way that you think the customer may actually need, to then also affecting, what tire they want to get. As, a tier 4 compared to a tier 1. And then when they finally pick the tire, how do you get them to then close the sale, right? And it could be from affordability. It could be, do they see the true value in what they picked out? How do you try to eliminate buyer's remorse, right? There's just a lot of things into selling. And what I kind of realized was, and this goes for me personally, because I don't like to speak for other people, but I like to stick to what I think I'm good at, which is selling the product and taking care of the post-purchase experience of warranty and post-sale care. But installation is a different animal. And I've known Derek and Joe, who run Go Mobile for a long time, and they kept talking to me and convincing me to work with them, and I kept pushing it off. And then eventually I was like, okay, now's the time to introduce it, because now we're ready. And it's been great. I mean, the Go Mobile franchisees, they're hardworking, great communicators. I find that they did a really good job vetting the people. We've had great experiences with all the franchisees. After Go Mobile, we then went to also another mobile company to kind of fill the gaps.
Right.
And they've been exceptional. So that was Goodyear Roll. They've been fantastic to work with as well. Our installer network right now is made up of mobile. It's made up of a national company. We do a lot of business with Monroe.
Okay.
And then a lot of mom and pops recently have been coming on. But we do also vet. Like, we don't just sign up anyone that wants to sign up, because they're also representing us.
Yeah.
Right? So we want to make sure that they have the right equipment. We want to see pictures of the showrooms. We want to make sure they have a good online reputation. We want to make sure they're enthusiastic about what we're doing, right? And the group we have today, awesome group that we have today in the installer network. We have virtually no issues with customers, and tons of compliments. In fact, a lot of our installers compliment us on how organized we are. We have a whole installer network team that not just signs people up, but actually takes care of the installer when there's an issue, so that we can solve it like ASAP and take care of the customer. Our business is built on repeat business. Even though it's an infrequent purchase, how often do customers tell their friends, their family, whatever? So we want to make sure we're getting in installers that are enthusiastic about us, because we're going to drive a lot of customers into their store. And that's why I think it's a great relationship, because we love sending customers to these people, because especially if they're going to represent us the right way.
Okay. Now, I've seen actually the LinkedIn posts. I think you guys often share pictures of you going out with your team, and I think that's pretty interesting and unique. Now, a lot of the tire businesses out there, because a lot of the people viewing this video are tire wholesalers, tire shops. A lot of them know you as a tire drop shipping business in nature, right?
Yep.
So they, in their minds, this is a company that's connecting to hundreds of warehouses, marking up the product and selling it online. Would that be in their website or a marketplace? What do you think about that? Is that accurate?
Not really. I mean, fundamentally, it probably is, but it's not. They're missing a lot of nuance.
Right.
So I want to start by going over the marketplace thing, because you and I spoke about that before.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, one of the things I really pride myself on is we do not sell a single tire on any marketplace. And not that I think there's anything wrong with that. It's just fundamentally different than what I believe is the right way to do business. And the reason why I don't do it is because you don't own the customer. They're literally just trying to find the cheapest product. And although I like to give competitive pricing and I'm happy to be the lowest when I can, we like to think we bring other value to the customer. I mean, a big percentage of our sales come from repeat customers, and I'm really proud of that. And it just shows how much people really love us. And so if you are just a marketplace seller and you're just another cheap tire seller, then where's the loyalty from the customer, right? And I also don't think that adds value to the manufacturers, because if you're a marketplace seller, the reality is the manufacturers don't need you, right? That means that customer has already done the research. They already know what they want. They're looking for a specific product, and they're going to get it, right? And it's just a matter of who they get it from. Again, not talking down about anyone that sells a marketplace. That's their business model. That's fine. That's just not my business model, right? And so the reason why I say it's not as easy as to call us a drop shipper is because we are very hands-on. So when I think of a drop shipper, I think of someone who sells tire retail online, automatically places an order, and it's like hands off. Yeah. We have a whole team of people that are tracking the products from the time it leaves the wholesaler or the manufacturer to the time it gets to the customer. And we have whole different modes of transportation. We are very sophisticated in what we do. It's not as simple as like a Shopify site that's like a plug and play. Like, that's just not what we are. We are way more advanced. We have a lot of technology. We have a lot of teams beyond our core executive group of 30 that are helping us with stuff. Yep. And we are making sure that we're giving the customers the best possible experience. So when people ask me, how do you describe your business? I don't say that we're a drop shipper, and I don't say that we're just an online retailer. I say we are one of the fastest growing tire dealers in the country, because I would argue that our customer service can be put up against the best of the best. And that's what I pride myself on. I mean, our training system is so advanced. Like, if someone wants to be customer service with us, they have to go through a virtual school before they start. We don't give them an FAQ sheet and be like, good luck.
Learn as you go.
Yeah, no, we don't do that. We have trainers, we have quality assurance people, we have people that are literally teaching people about tires and about customer care etiquette and phone skills, and it's a very robust system.
So I guess my question to you is Tire Agent a tech company, or is it an e-com company? And do you guys have plans on eventually doing some sort of brick and mortar wholesale locations or retail potentially?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I'd be lying if I said I never thought about it.
I mean, yeah, as a business owner, I think it's our job to like see
explore.
How much exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely done the research, definitely explored, but I can tell you at this point, I would rather let the installers do what they do, and we do what we do.
So you rather invest more on the installer network rather than building?
Yeah, okay. I've thought about it many, many times. I've explored it. I've built out financials. I mean, I've really went in the weeds. But at this time, it's just it's not the main focus for me. Our installers do an amazing job. Our customers have a great experience. I don't need to duplicate the wheel, right? Yeah. And so I would rather put the resources into the technology. It's funny, at my heart, I say we're a tire company. Yeah. But the reality is we are probably closer to a tech company. Because if you look at the advances we've done, I mean, it's just on another level. Our logistics is very sophisticated. We've built out supplier portals. We've built out installer portals. we're building out a whole infrastructure beyond what we've done for logistics in terms of how do you get the tire from point A to point B to get to the tires to the customers, in some cases the same day.
Nice.
So, and then if you look at the next version that's going to be launching the Tire Agent, we're taking the search experience to a whole nother level. Like right now, when you look at a typical online retailer, the format's usually the same, cheapest to most expensive, or somehow sorted by price or popularity. But I am going the route of sorting based on use case. Like, what are you using your vehicle for? What is most important to you? And we've built out really cool featured categories where we've described tires based on what use case you're looking for. And that's what's coming.
Is it AI powered?
No.
Nothing of that hype?
No. I mean, we use AI for work efficiency, but nothing that is consumer facing.
Okay.
And we can get into a whole discussion on why.
Yeah.
But I wanted to, I build Tire Agent when I think to myself, and who is our customer? We are very self-aware who our customer is, right? All the other online guys, I think, have an identity. I don't know whether they know what their identity is per se, right? But they all have an identity that they're known for. Well, we know what we like to be known for, and I try to build out features based on that. In fact, my philosophy in general with all online retailers, regardless of who it is, I don't really care. Like, I don't look at their business. I don't care what they're doing. I focus on what we can control and what we do. I don't play defense, I play offense. And I also think the market is so big that if one of our, and I'm going to go competitors, right? Because that's like saying, Joe's Tire Shop in New Jersey is a competitor with Frank's Tire Shop in Florida, right? Like, the population is so big online that how could I care so much about what one website is doing? I want to just stay focused on what we can control, what we do, and whatever happens in the market, we'll adjust at that point in time if it really begins to affect us. But we feel that we are doing such a great job constantly perfecting the experience that we don't worry about a Temu competitor or worry about a XYZtire.com. Like, it just, that can drive someone mad. That, I mean, look, you run a SaaS business, right?
Yeah.
If you spend your whole day focusing on what your competitors are doing.
No, I'll get depressed.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
I'll get depressed and I'll be like, I shouldn't be in this business and I should just quit.
Yes.
But,
and here's the thing. The other online retailers, some of them are doing great jobs. And they've built an amazing reputation and they service a lot of customers. But we're all so different in identity that I just don't lose sleep at night over that.
Now, I know we kind of slightly touched on AI just some moments ago, but AI is starting to touch the industry a little more now, more commonly through like phone conversations, virtual agents. A lot of people say, I'm not going to put AI agents on my phones, but I've personally heard them myself.
Some of them are really good.
You can't tell it's not a human. So like, how is AI playing a role in Tire Agent in your future?
We use it for operational efficiencies, like reviewing contracts at times, but nothing big, but like I'll upload a document. I'll be like, summarize this for me. What point should I look at? And I'll also review it myself too, but it's helpful to have like a second pair of eyes kind of like reviewing it, right? We'll use it for content, to write stuff for whether it's ads or whether it's tire biographies, stuff like that. I will use it for efficiency of creating tickets, like support tickets, because I think that's helpful. It can give the agents more time to work with the customers instead of just taking notes. So that's helpful. I will not use it to replace agents. I will not. Now, I would use it for routing, right? If someone comes to the website and maybe they say like, how can I help you? And you say warranties, then we'll get you to a warranty agent that can help you, right? Something like that. Or a new product sale agent that can help you.
It's like a concierge type agent.
Yeah,
that
like a routing
system.
system.
Okay,
yeah,
got it.
So that I would be open to if I could find the right one. I have not yet.
Right. Okay.
Because I test everything to make sure that
absolutely
I would not be annoyed.
Yeah.
But I have not found a system that works for me. And also what I would say is the reason why I don't want to use it to replace agents is because when somebody uses a chat or calls in, they're doing it with the intention of talking to someone, a person. They're not using it with the intention of talking to a robot. And I don't want to do that, because I know that if I felt that, if I was searching and I was talking to someone and all of a sudden I realized it was an AI bot, like, I would be annoyed.
You would feel cheated somehow. I don't know. It's weird.
100%. Now,
I would feel cheated.
I'm not saying people shouldn't use AI, and I'm not saying they shouldn't use it to make their life easier, but there is a place to do it. Now, if I had a fashion company, I'm just using fashion just because it's very cut and dry, right? You have small, medium, large, you have sizing guides, right? Stuff like that. I can understand why somebody would want to do it, because it's very black and white. Now, yes, something may not always fit or whatever, but the questions are very simple, right? With tires, there's so many variables when someone is picking out a tire and what's right for them. And I have used, some of these AI tools, and I've typed in stuff to try to find tires that they suggest. And sometimes I completely disagree. So if I disagree with it, why would I then want to subject my customers talking to them?
You obviously, one of the things I really look up to you is...
You're way too kind.
No, I do. And this is not very common, especially in our industry, is you were able to raise money for a tire business. You could call it a technology company or whatever, but I don't think there's a lot of tire industry folks out there that, even the younger generation, that would, for that matter, I don't even think investors are looking to invest in the tire industry.
Yeah.
So for anyone maybe having that question, should more younger business owners consider investment or pursuing investors or not? What's your feedback on that?
It's a complicated answer, because I think it depends on a few different things, right? So it depends on your personality. Like, can you handle having a boss? Because the minute you take money from someone, like, it gets real, right? And you're no longer the person who can do all the decisions on your own. Well, actually, let's define investor, right? Because we're not talking about like your friend who has extra money that wants to give you money, right? We're talking about like professional investors.
Okay.
So if you have professional investors, you have to go into it with the mindset that you are responsible for their personal money that they put in, or their professional money, whichever it may be, but you're responsible for it. And so that has to be taken very seriously. The other thing is, you can no longer make snap decisions without discussing it. So that goes out the window. You no longer can pivot your business without discussions. So for me, I pivoted very quickly, but I constantly was giving investors updates. Like, I send out updates every quarter to my investors, and I take that very seriously, and I give very detailed ones. And so if you are someone who wants to start a business and you want to take investment, like, just, you have to know going into it, you're no longer by yourself. You have a team that you have to report to. That being said, I would not be where I am if it wasn't for taking investment. Now, I was very lucky. I got a lot of support from the tire industry, because I had a lot of friends that have been in the industry for 20 years now, about in total. And I could say that I wouldn't be here without the tire industry supporting me, which I've been very, very fortunate. And I've known a lot of these people for 20 years. But Tire Agent would not be here today if we did not raise money, because we were able to experiment with the money. We were able to take some risks. We were able to constantly try things. And if you don't try things, you're never going to scale super quick. So it also depends what kind of life you want. Do you want a lifestyle business where you start a company and you can make a very nice living, and you're growing at a very gradual rate that is manageable? Or do you want a business and take a risk personally of hopefully making a lot of money and growing really fast, but also going out of business really fast, right? Because a lot of startups will go out of business because they burn through money very quickly. When I was in the tech accelerator, I got to see a lot of startups raise a ton of money. Some of them, if I told you the number they raised, you'd be like, how is that even possible? But some of these people raised exorbitant amount of money, blew through it, went out of business in a couple of years.
Just like that.
Just like that.
And here we're struggling for $1 million, $2 million,
yeah,
or 500,000. Yeah.
And you have to keep in mind that in venture world, they want you to take risks because they want to get to a level of scalability. I don't know if that's a real word, but that's the word I use all the time.
No, yeah.
And they want you to get to a point where you become one of the biggest at what you do. And you cannot do that by going very slow and being very scared. So when I make business decisions, I make it knowing, okay, this is someone else's money. I'm going to take some risks, but I'm going to take calculated risks, and I'm going to fail quick. Like, I believe in failing fast and moving on.
Okay. Yeah, so you're not just going to be reckless, but you're going to, okay. Now, I have two more questions. One of them is, I get to meet a lot of business owners, especially retail shops that are starting or that they have 1, 2, 3 locations. Like I said, it's natural for every shop owner to want to grow.
Yep.
And oftentimes they want to get into e-com. Like for them, it's like they've had the brick and mortar shop. They start noticing more customers coming in with tires that they bought online. And so a lot of them, they want to get into this market. What would be some advice for those business owners who are considering right now, investing in a website or doing this or that,
Don't do it. and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why.
Let's hear it.
If the goal is to get more business, then instead of opening up your own online, work with people like me where we can drive customers to your shops. Okay? But the reason why I'm saying don't do it, it's the same reason why I haven't opened up a retail shop, right? We've grown really fast on Tire Agent. We've done a really great job, but it's a different animal. When you are opening up an online company, you need to invest a lot of money in a custom site. Shopify, in my opinion, not the way to go.
Guilty as charged, man. Sorry.
Okay. Right? It's it's not a good way because you have so many SKUs, you have so many custom work that needs to be done.
So many variables.
Yeah, so many variables. And by the time you're done adding the monthly subscription fees with Shopify, with all the customizations, it'll eat you alive.
No. Yeah.
So that's one. Second thing is logistics. Very, very complicated. Incredibly complicated. Like you think it's just slapping a label on a tire. It is so much more than that. What happens when the tire gets lost? What happens when it's too big for FedEx to take? What happens when you get hit with all these random fees from the carrier, whether it's UPS, FedEx, DHL, whoever it may be, right? There's just so many things that can go wrong that you'll pull time away from your brick and mortar focus. If I would try to go after every business that I thought was a good idea, I'd have no more money in the bank account because I would have tried everything. You got to stick to what you're good at. And if you've scaled your brick and mortar shop to 3 stores, then chances are you could scale it to 5, you could scale it to 10, you could scale it to 20. Stay focused on that. Now, if you want to do a hybrid model where you're selling tires online locally and you're driving them into the stores, totally get it. And at that point, you're not an e-com company. That's just another feature for your actual business to bring customers in to make it easier. And that I totally can agree with. Because now you're not worried about shipping tires, you're worrying about just getting customers in the door. And so that I totally see a world for. But selling tires online and shipping all over the country, if you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to survive. That's why if you look at the market now, a lot of the guys that were around a couple of years ago, they're no longer around anymore.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough market, man.
So many of them have just fallen off. Now, eBay, Amazon, Walmart, that's different. I don't when I refer to selling online, I'm talking about on your own.
Yeah, on your own website.
Yeah,
Marketplace definitely has its own, but it has its own problems too. I've tried
Completely.
both of them, and it's a headache, man. It's a big headache.
Well, you have multiple challenges. So one, they'll always, and there's a good part to this. They'll always take the customer side, right? Even if the customer's wrong, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but you also are not building a brand on the marketplace.
Right.
You're supporting another person's brand,
Yep.
which I don't have a problem with. It's just not my model, right? My model is supporting our brand, growing our brand, and growing our manufacturers' brands that we work with. I love supporting them. When you sell on a marketplace, you're helping the marketplace get bigger. And yes, you're benefiting, but you have to sell at such a big volume to even make it worth it.
Yep.
Right? Because they take a big commission.
Yep.
So it's a decision you have to trade off. But I will say, if anybody does want to sell online, you got to hire an in-house developer. You cannot work with an agency because you'll have to go to them for every little thing.
If you're serious.
If you're really serious and you really want to go that route, you got to build a full-fledged team. Like we have a team that does this. And me personally, I'm very involved in the business. I am involved on a day-to-day level. Like we have managers and we have supervisors, but I'm very, very, in it. And if you're running a brick and mortar store and you're dealing with your own set of problems, how are you now going to deal with these set of problems? Right. People think it's hands off. It's not. It's hands off for the distributors we work with because they're putting the label on the tire, giving it to FedEx. And that part's the easy part. But that's not the real business.
Yeah. I think that's the misconception. A lot of business owners think it's just putting tires online, you sell something, you arbitrage the price, you click a button and it's money in, money out without having to do much. But I think if anything, it's a lot easier to be the wholesaler. I when people normally reach out to me, because I've had a lot of videos. I'm normally the guy that likes to do trial and error. Even if you tell me, man, like don't do it. I'm the type of guy, and there's a lot of people like that. I think we're all kind of like in a way stubborn in our own way, where we go and say,
well, you had a mobile tire business.
I had a mobile business, an e-com business. I sold online, the wholesale, retail, and so I like. But when people come in and
what was your experience with having the e-com?
The feeds were my number one problem. So I was selling normally products that were out of stock because there wasn't inventory or that I could control. Let's say the feeds were right. Sometimes some of these wholesalers don't have the right inventory. So now I just spent money on advertisement. I spent money on shipping only to find out that there was no product. And so it takes a lot of effort to put the right guardrails in place to make sure that companies,
And it takes time.
Exactly. And money. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people, it's not just listing a Shopify website. It does take.
And you won't build a success, in my opinion, you will not build a successful online site with a couple $100,000. Like it takes way more to do it right.
Well, yes, considering I agree, because I think normally that's what I tell people. Again, people reach out and there's different stages. They'll reach out where they just want to get started, and I go like, just become a wholesaler, man. Just share your feed, and you could get in the drop shipping business, but
way easier.
Yeah, don't do the website. But then there's other people that already have invested in the website, and I go like, you're barely starting, man. Like once you do the website, who's gonna go to your website? How are you gonna drive the traffic? How are you gonna convert?
There's also something called sunk cost, right? And at some point, even if you've spent the money, there's no shame in just saying it doesn't work and just cutting your loss. I mean, we've done that with projects where we've spent a lot of money, and after a couple months, like I told you before, I fail fast. I close and I move on to the next one. It's just sometimes you have to decide where is your energy and money better spent. And if you're not selling on the marketplace, the customer acquisition cost will destroy you.
That and the shipping, if you haven't already established a good shipping relationship, or if you're not using a vendor shipping labels. I think, again, it is a very complicated business, but a lot of these shops still have the desire, and it's sometimes, again, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes determined business owners that they believe they can do it. They sometimes think like, oh, you just don't want us to get in the industry, you don't want to oversaturate it, but it's not as easy as it.
I don't think there is such a thing as oversaturation online. Like, I've had people call me up that were doing, selling tires online, and I've told them my opinions on things. Like, I've actually given them genuinely advice that I would give myself. And people are like, why are you doing that with people that are trying to be your competitor? Because look how many brick and mortar shops are in the country.
Yeah.
Right? And you can have multiple people selling tires online. It doesn't mean you're a competitor. Now, people call me, like, they think I'm naive for saying that, but, like, how many people buy tires online? Let's call it 16% or 20% of the population, right? It's a $30 billion industry. So even let's just say 10%, easy numbers, $3 billion sold online. Let's just say that's the case. That's a lot of tires, right? That's a lot of tires to be sold. I want people to be successful online, because the more people that are successful online, the more awareness there is to buy tires online, which means it'll drive traffic to all of us.
It's a snowball effect.
It's a snowball effect. Now, we're in a time where a lot of people won't be successful online, but it's because a lot of the new people are just not sophisticated enough technology-wise to get to that level. And I think whoever is strong right now will probably continue to be strong and maybe even get stronger. But the newcomers coming in, it's too difficult because they don't understand the industry a lot of times. Like understanding it at the brick and mortar level is not the same thing as understanding it on the online level.
Yeah.
And a lot of them like to play cowboy and sell tires at any price they want, but there are rules, right? Like there is MAP compliance, and there is also a thing where, you want to be respectful to the competition as well. Because ultimately, whether our competitors realize it or not, we are unofficially working in the same goal, which is to bring awareness online. And if somebody doesn't know what they're doing and they're listing wrong product information, like listing something as a run flat that's not a run flat, listing it below map when they're not supposed to be listing it below map, having a bad search experience where the person is buying tires online and they're getting the wrong size, like that doesn't just affect your site. It affects everyone's site, because then you'll traumatize that person from ever buying a tire online.
Right.
So I try to put my best foot forward when I'm selling tires online, because I want to give online the best possible reputation, not just Tire Agent, but the whole experience of purchasing without having to see it yourself. And that doesn't mean that I'm trying to cannibalize brick and mortar. I'm trying to complement brick and mortar, not destroy it.
Right.
That's why we have so many installers that we're loving working with.
It's a very interesting perspective. I had not thought about this in that way, where you could say, yes, they could be my competitors, but if they raise more awareness indirectly, that would benefit the overall pie.
Sure.
And that's actually a great way of seeing it.
There's a bunch of guys who sell tires online I have a great relationship with. And we just spitball ideas about, and we talk industry stuff once in a while. And I have no problem with that. In fact, I love it, because sometimes people tell me a perspective I had not thought about.
Well, this is my last question. I know we're coming up to the end here, man.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. No, we could. Trust me, we could talk here all day. But are you ever afraid that this won't work? Like, do you ever have that
Never.
imposter syndrome or doubt that, like, you're scared or fearful of failure?
No, not once.
How do you get that motivation, that determination?
I don't ever want to be broke again.
So just remember, you go back to those days and you're like, that's not what I want.
It will never happen again. I will work tirelessly to make sure that does not happen. But also, I think I don't have to worry about it, because it sounds crazy, but I respect the industry. And I'm not saying that because I'm on camera. I mean, anyone that knows me, that talks to me, knows that's how I feel. I am passionate, and I love the people, and I love the collaboration. Whether you work with a distributor, you work with a manufacturer, ideas are flowing. You're getting something from it. And for me, I don't really worry about going out of business, because I know I'm bringing value. I always say value, because you got to have a value proposition to keep customers.
Right.
If you're going to sell tires online with the intention of, my value prop is being the cheapest tire, right? Well, what are you going to do when that person has a problem with their tire? Are you going to ignore it, or are you going to take care of it? And if you're going to take care of it, now you have to build out a system to take care of it. Now all of a sudden you have a value prop, right? It's that you take care of the customer. It's beyond the price. For me, we have a lot of people that love our multitude of payment options that we offer, right? And that is a value prop that we offer. Now, it's not the only one, right? We have the Allstate tire protection. We have quick delivery. I just told you some people are getting tires same day, next day. We have our post-care that we have, and so we are more focused on being customer-centric, on a more holistic approach than just price. And that's why we will survive. And that's why, as companies come and go, we're not going anywhere, because, as I always tell people, I'm very proud of the fact that our customers come back and they purchase again. And if that was not the case, and I was only relying on paid acquisition, because we were talking about advertising costs, I'd probably be screwed.
Yeah.
But we have repeat customers, we have channel partners, we have paid marketing, we have SEO, we have a whole approach to it. And I just don't think of it that way. Now, in the earlier stages, it's not that I thought I was going to go out of business. because of like incompetence. I was worried I was going to go out of business because I was down to my last dollars.
Yeah.
That's different, and yes, I was a nervous wreck in the first like couple of years, but I do a really good job of compartmentalizing, and you can't get caught up on the what ifs. You got to just stay focused and basically just stay in the moment, work through it, and then have a game plan. As long as you have a game plan and you have something that you can work towards, usually you can weather the storm if the game plan is sound and you've looked at it from different angles.
Okay.
So it's not that I'm egotistical, because I'm not. I've been doing this now enough where I've just like, I look at the landscape and what my challenges are, and I'm never complacent. I am constantly changing the business to evolve with the times.
Okay.
So hopefully that answered it.
That gives me some good advice personally, man. So I appreciate it. But, well, thank you again, Jared, for hosting us today, man. I really appreciate it. I know you're a busy man, so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, sharing some knowledge. And I just thank you again.
Never too busy for you. Thank you so much for having me on the show, man.
All
Thanks
right.
for coming.
Thank you, man.
Take
Thank
care.
you, guys.